Okay, we're going to go ahead and get the meeting started, and as soon as you stay on the line so that we can take you as being a member and creating part of our quorum, but then we'll see you in 5 or 10 minutes here in Henderson, okay?
Yeah, I'll just be here just a few minutes. Perfect.
All right, thank you. Are we ready in Carson City?
We are, Madam Chair.
All right, thank you. And we're ready here in Henderson. So I'm going to go ahead and call this meeting to order this afternoon. This is a properly noticed meeting for the Silver State Health Insurance Exchange. And we are video conferencing between our office in Carson City and the office here in Henderson, Nevada. We will have one or more of our members on the telephone. So, and right now it will continue to be Ms. Kerr, and we will have Dr. Jameson here in a few minutes. So,
I'm on the phone. Oh, right.
Okay. All right. Mr. Gilbert, do you have any announcements for today's meeting?
No, Madam Chair, I do not.
All right. Thank you. Do you want to go ahead then and take the roll call, and let's make sure that we have a quorum before we start the rest of the meeting?
Yes, thank you. Ms. Smith-Campbell?
Present.
Ms. Atkins? Ms. Johnstone?
Present in Henderson.
Ms. Lewis?
Present in Henderson.
Dr. Jameson?
Present, here.
Ms. Kerr?
Present on the phone.
Dr. Ford?
Present in Henderson.
Mr. Gilliland? Mr. Kipper?
Here in Carson City.
Thank you. And Ms. Teska?
Here in Carson City.
Thank you. We have a quorum, Madam Chairman.
All right. Thank you very much, and welcome to all the board members. Our first item on the agenda is public comment. Do we have any public comment from anyone in Carson City?
I don't see any.
All right, thank you, Mr. Gilbert. Anyone here in Henderson? Doesn't appear to have any here as well. So moving on to the minutes, approval of the minutes from November 14th. Do any of the board members have any additions or comments to those minutes? Hearing none, is there a motion to approve?
This is Leslie Johnstone. I'll so move.
And do we have a second?
Second.
All right, thank you, Ms. Kerr. We have a motion by Ms. Johnstone and a second by Ms. Kerr. All in favor of the motion?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you very much. The motion is approved. Mr. Gilbert, may we have your report, please?
You may, and thank you very much. As I was writing my remarks for today, one of the things that struck me is what a difference a year makes. I was not here last December, but I know it was a difficult time for many. And it's a pleasure for me to be able to be here today and hopefully deliver much better news than was the case a year ago. When we last met, I shared with the board my assessment that the exchange had done everything possible to ensure that the upcoming open enrollment would be termed a success. Our work with our federal partners, with the leadership of other state agencies, with carriers, the broker and agent communities, our navigator organizations, ended up improving and streamlining the consumer enrollment experience, and certainly has made it easier for Nevadans to purchase health insurance. And while it's going to take some time before we're provided with enrollment numbers from CMS, early reports from our enrollment stores, from carriers, from the broker and agent communities, and from our navigators are consistently good. As the board is aware, we released our first set of numbers yesterday, which we were able to get from the carriers, which indicated that over 10,000 people had enrolled as of December 5th. Given last year's issues, that's an extraordinarily good number. The healthcare.gov platform has proven to be stable. Application and enrollment processes are reliable and straightforward. Data transfers from the federal hub to our carriers have been error-free and flawless. And our new website and pre-screener have handled thousands of hits and performed flawlessly. I am very pleased to be able to tell you our technology works. Our messaging and outreach efforts have also been successful. Between November 15th and 30th, literally thousands of people attended the enrollment event at the Rio and visited our stores in Reno and Las Vegas, seeking assistance in securing coverage. Thousands have visited our website as well and taken advantage of our pre-screening process, helping them understand whether they would be best served seeking coverage through Access Nevada or through the healthcare.gov platform. And while we still have a long way to go before we can deem this open enrollment period a success, I believe that we are certainly able to say that we are at the starting point for a functional and operational exchange that will decrease the number of uninsured Nevadans, that is consumer-focused and friendly, that works constantly and consistently to earn the trust of our consumers, our carrier partners, our sister agencies, and all Nevadans, demonstrating the ability and willingness to both do things right and to do the right thing. There's no question that we've done a lot, but we still have a lot to do. We have to continue to prove that our technology is robust, that our decision-making is sound. We have to prove that we care about and are an advocate for Nevada's consumers, and we have to do all we can to promptly and fairly resolve all lingering questions about premiums and coverages. We have to take clear and actionable steps that demonstrate we've put our house in order and we are moving forward. And to that end, I'd like to touch upon strategic planning and our goals for the upcoming year. I've reviewed the prior strategic plan of the exchange, and it's certainly impressive. There are lots of pages and objectives and measures and benchmarks. That said, I would tell you that it, in retrospect, certainly is incredibly ambitious and essentially set out a series of operational metrics, none of which ultimately were applicable to the reality of the operations of the exchange. As Roger Martin wrote in his article, The Big Lie of Strategic Planning, which appeared earlier this year in the Harvard Business Review, a detailed plan can be comforting, but it's not the same as a strategy. And my preference would be that we approach the next year and our next strategic plan a little bit differently. I've identified 5 simple, easily understood goals to provide direction for the upcoming year, essentially a list of priorities. Additional detail is needed and will be provided, but the idea is to gain consensus and agreement that this is how we can best spend our time over the coming year to fulfill our mission and vision. Goal 1 is to renew consumer faith. The issues experienced by the exchange and Nevada HealthLink last year are well documented, and it's all but impossible to calculate just how much those issues impacted our relationship with Nevada's consumers, but it would be foolish and short-sighted to suggest that they did not. Even as we celebrate the start of what appears to be a successful open enrollment, we cannot forget or discount last year's problems. One good open enrollment will not overcome these negative perceptions, and we need to dedicate the next year, or perhaps 2 or 3, to regaining the trust of the public and others. Now, restoring and renewing consumer faith and confidence has to be our highest priority. Goal number 2, complete the break. As we put the problems of last year behind us, we still have to work through the termination of the Xerox contract and the associated problems and issues that linger. On the technology side, the successful launch of this year's open enrollment has freed up personnel who had been primarily allocated to that effort, which will allow me to deploy additional resources to this project. Accordingly, I've asked Damon Haycock, who helped develop the project management template for our transition to healthcare.gov, which went very well, to develop and implement a similar project management template for the Xerox closeout so that we can be certain that all of the risks are addressed and nothing is overlooked. On the operational side, all financial reconciliations must be completed and all consumer cases have to be resolved. And this isn't going to be easy or simple or without pain, particularly given the existing litigation and really the potential for more to come, but it's something that simply has to be done. Adding Yvonne and Rosa to our Henderson staff has resulted in a substantial and obvious improvement in our consumer service functionality, and we'll be leaning heavily on them and Shauna, of course, as the financial reconciliation progresses. I will also be more closely involved personally in the reconciliation going forward, meeting weekly with staff and PCG, and having follow-up discussions with the carriers to assure that everyone agrees that we are progressing. Our third goal is to transform our structure to better fit the SSBM model. You know, the Silver State Health Insurance Exchange was originally envisioned as a freestanding state-based marketplace providing application and enrollment technology, premium billing and collection services, and much more. And today, we find that the exchange has transformed. We've overseen the movement of the application enrollment process from Xerox to healthcare.gov, and we have ceded premium billing and collection to our carrier partners. Those activities, which were initially considered core functions, have been supplanted by a new set of primary responsibilities. An emphasis on consumer education and outreach, customer service and advocacy, serving as a technical resource and liaison between our federal partners and the insurers on the exchange, and working in concert with other agencies to reduce our uninsured population. We have to review our current structure and ensure it reflects our new reality, making changes as necessary to adapt to what we are, as opposed to what we were. And I will be conferring with staff and looking at options to help us focus on what it will take for us to best perform our new core functions. One change I will be recommending is the adoption of an SSBM-based best practice as developed by our sister exchange in New Mexico. In our conversations with New Mexico, which is a state that similarly has had consumers utilize the healthcare.gov platform and also the federal call center, our biggest interest was, how do you handle consumer issues, consumer problems, and provide consumer assistance? And in the end, what they did was develop a small call center staffed by 10 of the best and most experienced navigators available. These individuals were not and are not state employees, but are brought in through the Navigator program. And they man the phone during open enrollment to assist individuals, brokers, agents, and others who experience problems in the application enrollment process. They also augment customer service provided by the federal call center. They serve as an advocate for New Mexicans. They join in on calls, assisting them in explaining issues to the federal call center personnel, and work toward the resolution of any and all types of problems that may be experienced. New Mexico staff believes and feels very strongly that this has kept consumer satisfaction very high and stimulated enrollment. And there seems very little reason for us not to explore this strategy. Our fourth goal is to develop a comprehensive and workable sustainability plan. Everyone understands that our federal financial assistance is coming to an end, and our transition to self-sufficiency is at hand. Every state-based marketplace in the nation is struggling with the concept of financial sustainability, and there's no shortage of possible solutions. Some jurisdictions, like ours, assess and collect a fee on each participant securing coverage through the exchange. Others have initiated market-wide assessments, collecting a fee on each policy sold on or off the exchange. A third group has combined the two approaches to varying degrees, and a fourth group relies on general funds. Rather than focus on internally developing a solution for sustainability, I believe that we would be best served by working in partnership with other state agencies, consumer advocates, the agent and broker communities, and other constituents to gain consensus and craft a sustainability plan which can be endorsed and supported by all of our stakeholders. To that end, I'm going to be reaching out to other state agencies, our agent and broker community, and others for recommendations, both as to structure and membership, and provide that information to the board along with a plan of action. Our fifth goal is to continue to learn and improve. Everyone knows and understands that 2014 has been a very challenging year for the exchange and the board. You've had 3 executive directors. You've had numerous staff changes, one not so good and one pretty good open enrollment, and more. There have been a lot of different issues to be faced and hard decisions to be made. And to your credit, you've stood up and made them. But there are surely going to be more challenges and hard decisions to come as we move forward. It's important, as we look over the past year, to understand that there have been valuable lessons learned, but not simply learned and acted upon. We have successfully managed the technical and operational risks attendant to a transition to a supported state-based marketplace. We have successfully navigated the outset of this year's open enrollment period, and I am very confident that success will continue. We've successfully messaged the importance of purchasing health insurance and the availability of in-person assistance to guide consumers through the application and enrollment processes. We've also identified and removed last year's two greatest dissatisfiers and significantly lessened the potential for the types of problems and results experienced last year. 2015 will undoubtedly present a new set of challenges and opportunities, and our collective responsibility is to assure that the exchange is prepared to successfully meet them. I tend to use the phrase building a foundation for success a lot, but it's something that I believe in very, very strongly, because creating that foundation is the first step to making the exchange become what it was initially envisioned to be. We are on the right road. I am absolutely certain of that, and we are headed that way. We will continue to learn from the past, build upon our current success, and in the future further our mission of assuring access to health insurance for all Nevadans. Madam Chair, that would be the sum and substance of my remarks.
Thank you, Mr. Gilbert. I'm going to open it up for questions from board members. Dr. Jameson?
Mr. Gilbert, that was just a wonderful report. Thank you. And I do appreciate your sentiments about your strategic plan not being caught up in the details and looking at the big picture. On the 10,000 that we enrolled, how many of those, are those all new enrollees or are those including our re-enrolled? And if so, what's the breakdown?
Dr. Jameson, thank you for that question, and thank you for the very kind remarks. Unfortunately, it is not possible for us at this point in time to secure data that will allow us to say how many are re-enrollments and how many are new. Because we're dealing basically with information that comes from the carriers, they would have that data and they will have to do those comparisons for us, and that's going to take some time. At this point, the only thing that they're prepared to provide to us is the number of enrollees.
Any other questions?
When you were talking about our sustainability and the possible options that others have done, and fourth was general funds. What is general funds?
General funds is an approach that's not going to be followed, I'm pretty sure, in the state of Nevada. That's where the state treasury essentially underwrites the expense of operating the exchange. I believe that's done in New York.
And under current Nevada statutes, we need to sustain ourselves by membership fees or by the fees that we collect with the enrollments. So, any other questions? Ms. Kerr, any questions from you since you're on the phone?
No, thank you. But I do thank Bruce. I think he's. I'm hearing much better news this year than I'm hearing last year, and it makes me quite happy. You know, I understand that there's challenges going forward, and there always are. But I think that we're certainly starting off on the right foot. So thank you very much.
I would agree, and thank you, Mr. Gilbert, for a great report, and I'll look forward to working with you to see how we get the board to work with you on this set of goals. So again, thank you for that. The news coming out this December is much more refreshing than it was last December. So if we don't have any other questions, I'd like to move ahead to item number 5 on the agenda, which is the discussion of the semi-annual report that needs to go to the governor and the legislature. And Mr. Gilbert, are you going to be giving this report?
No, actually, Madam Chair, for the record, Laura Rich, I will be giving this report.
All right, thank you, Ms. Rich. Do you want to move ahead?
Sure. So I'm going to briefly just go over this. This is a semi-annual report that is submitted twice a year in June and in December. Much of the first part of the report is fairly similar to the one that was submitted in June, so I'm just going to go ahead and jump ahead to to page 6, which is the section on the exchange's transition to a supported state-based marketplace. So essentially this section just explains the exchange's timeline of events, what we did during, as a result of numerous errors and difficulties during the 2014 enrollment We made the decision, or the board made the decision on May 20th, 2014 to approve the option to become a supported state-based marketplace for plan year 2015, while developing a procurement for a transfer system from another state to be implemented in plan year 2016. During this process, we worked with we collaborated with many different agencies, various state and federal agencies, as well as various contractors, insurance carriers, things of that nature. In May of 2014, the exchange and all partners designed, developed, and implemented a successful transition to the SSBM model, as Mr. Gilbert spoke about earlier. We did succeed in relaunching the website nevadahealthlink.com on November 2nd, 2014. This site provides Nevadans with all the tools to assist them with their health insurance needs. And the site also directs Nevadans to its pre-screener that asks 6 short questions to direct consumers to either healthcare.gov for a QHP plan or Access Nevada for Medicaid Nevada checkup to reduce those steps in obtaining the most appropriate health insurance. So on November 14th at approximately 11 p.m., healthcare.gov relaunched their web portal and began accepting applications for Plan Year 2015. We were connected successfully. The staff, internal staff, tested the enrollment process from start to finish. We actually enrolled ourselves into a plan, and we followed our own enrollment down to actually the carriers. So we were able to follow our 834 enrollment from our own website to the carriers. We found out what day the carriers actually received our enrollments. We did this with all 5 of the medical carriers and a few of the dental carriers. So the next section, I'm actually going to defer to Mr. Klimas, since it is it does discuss the marketing, advertising, and outreach report. So I'll defer that to him.
Mr. Klimas.
Well, thanks, Laura, for the surprise there, but I will take that. The marketing section, which I did draft, of course, I did discuss the advisory committees in the fiscal and operational report. We met twice since the last report, and those went very well. There were no recommendations for the board in those 2, so they're merely listed in the fiscal and operational report. The marketing, advertising, and outreach report we just discussed. We'll break down the mini reports that we've also delivered to the board over the last 3 or 4 months. We'll get into the statistics where we're at to date later on in the agenda item and the consumer assistance and marketing outreach update report. You'll see the various paid media advertising that we're doing, some of the new outreach opportunities that we have, as well as the enrollment stores are listed. We talk about the website, the metrics, which we'll also discuss later on in this meeting, and then, of course, our re-enrollment initiative. Some high-level view of what we've done so far, and especially leading up to the open enrollment period and where we stand currently. So that's what's included in the fiscal and operational report from the marketing side.
All right, thank you.
Thank you, Tyler. So to go on with the quality assurance and enrollment statistics. So as we have been doing since the beginning, since October 1st, 2013, the exchange has been submitting standardized state-based marketplace data established by the Center for Consumer Information and Insurance Oversight, which is CISIO, on a weekly and quarterly basis. So we're continuing to submit those numbers for 2014. You can see those numbers on the next page. As Mr. Gilbert alluded to, we are working on a plan to get that information directly from the carriers for 2015. However, that process is still being established. The exchange is working with the carriers since the CMS will not be providing that data to us. So we will need to be getting that data directly from the carrier. So the exchange is working with the carriers, trying to establish standardized data elements that they can provide to us. We are not going to be able to report for the year 2015 enrollment statistics quite as on a granular basis as we did for the 2014 plan year, but we should be able to get some standardized data such as enrollments, effectuations, date of birth, those types of elements. However, they will not be broken down to the standards that the exchange was able to report on last year. So as you can see, we are at paid effectuations. We're down to about 32,000 for 2014. Now we'll go over, I believe, Mr. Klimas during his marketing and outreach report, we'll go over the new statistics, so I won't go over those. We have 32,000 currently enrolled for 2014 into a QHP and 18,574 in dental plans. So with that, I'll defer the next section to Mrs. Eaton on finance.
Thank you, Carrie Eaton for the record. Not a whole lot in this section has changed since the last report. I did add that our 2016-2017 budget request is currently being reviewed by our budget and LCB divisions for review and approval by the legislature. Then on page 13, there is a table that has been updated. This lists all of our current contracts and our current contract authority and what has been spent to date. And there is one little issue with this, my little asterisk for the KPS 3 contract. This is not pending approval. This has actually been approved by the clerk of the board. So that has been approved. And moving on to page 14, the chart on page 14 is just an overview of our current funding and expenditures that have been expended and collected so far this year as of December 5th. And that is it. Actually, I believe that completes the report. And so if you have any questions, please let any of us know.
Do we have questions from board members?
This is Leslie Johnstone. This, I think, is for Laura. Understanding that you're not in control of the types of reports that we can get from healthcare.gov, do you know if we'll be able to find out of those enrolled, if they were previously enrolled or if they are new?
So it's going to be virtually impossible to get that data just because we may be able to have the carriers tell us if someone re-enrolled into their own plan. However, a current consumer for 2014 can, let's say that they were an Anthem subscriber and they decided to re-enroll for 2015 and enrolled into a co-op plan. So in that situation, the co-op is going to consider them a brand new member coming onto the exchange. They're not going to have any, any information as to whether they were an exchange member last year or not. So it's almost going to be impossible to get that data unless we collect it directly from the consumers, which is an option.
Okay, thank you. All right, Dr. Ford, you had a question?
This is Dr. Ford for the record. I'm looking at your data for 2014, the little table on my page 12. Explain to me why the numbers dropped between open enrollment for the first 5 months and open enrollment for the whole year.
So that's simple. Terminations were processed. We began processing terminations earlier this year, and once those terminations began getting processed for either non-payment or various other reasons, the enrollment started dropping.
Okay, thank you.
Dr. Jamieson?
This is a little bit about our ability to do gather more data so we can analyze our demographics. I'm just wondering when they first go on the site, or somewhere on the site, or in follow-up, we'll be able to maybe have some questionnaire or something put out there.
Dr. Jameson, are you referring to a questionnaire on the site, or are you referring to a questionnaire that we send out from the exchange?
To the new members. It would, of course, that would be either way that it's most practical.
So we have no control over what goes on healthcare.gov. But we were unable to, the feds are not supplying that information to us directly as far as, on that granular scale that we're looking for. We can get that directly from the carriers, but then again, we need to have carrier cooperation. And, while they have been fairly cooperative on this, it is definitely time and labor intensive on their end. So we're looking to maybe establish a procedure to get as much information as we can as far as the new enrollees. But at this point in time, it's really we're kind of in the early steps of that process.
And what steps would that be?
So the exchange has been working with the carriers to develop a standardized enrollment reporting mechanism, and we've been able to I've actually been speaking with the carriers directly, trying to get a consensus as to what they can report, because carriers have different reporting capabilities. So what can be reported to the exchange on a consistent basis and how they report it to us. We've explored options to get this, to maybe contract this out. But those are very costly options, and it's something that we haven't necessarily come to a decision about. But at this moment in time, it's a very manual effort from the carriers and the exchange, just because we're working with what we have at the moment and what the carriers can provide. So really, it's kind of an all or nothing. If we get something from one carrier and don't get it from the other, then that whole data element is fairly worthless.
If I may augment that just a bit, as Laura has indicated, we work very closely with the carriers. And in the end, with regard to the information that we're talking about now, we really have to ask them, if you will, for their approval and assistance to try and gain this information so that we can glean additional insight. Every carrier collects information differently. They have different reporting capabilities, as Laura has said. We have spoken with a vendor who has indicated that there may be software which is capable of intercepting the 834s as they go from healthcare.gov to the carrier or go back, which would allow us to basically parse data and information from that enrollment file. However, it is not an inexpensive process, and of course we'll have to go through an RFP or something like it in order to look at all the vendors that offer that kind of service. But if the exchange is genuinely interested in determining or gathering as much information as possible as far as the enrollees are concerned, then that software probably offers us the greatest opportunity to do it. There's going to have to be a cost-benefit analysis there, but the capability is there to do what you want. We just have to decide if it works for us and if we can afford it.
Thank you.
Do we have any other questions, Dr. Ford?
Dr. Ford, the 10,000 enrollees in healthcare.gov, are those confirmed QHP plans or paid QHP plans? So I'm trying to compare it to 2014 numbers.
Yeah, and thank you for your question, Dr. Ford. We must, I guess I should say, follow the definitions that are provided by those who operate healthcare.gov. So those are enrollees. Those are not the same as the number of persons who have paid. Those are persons who have gone through the application and enrollment processes, chosen a plan, gone through the entire thing and indicated that they are going to purchase the plan. but money may not have changed hands at this point in time. That's not unusual, only because people don't always like to pay for their insurance in advance. So I think that what we will see is probably in the early numbers, not a lot of people going into their pocket at this point in time, especially with the holidays coming up, but payments being made prior to the end of the year.
So what we called confirmed QHP plans in 2014 is what those 10,000 are.
I'm not familiar with that definition.
Yeah, that's correct.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, do we have any other questions?
Did the carriers break that down for you to paid and confirmed?
We have very sketchy data at the moment, so they're not even collecting that on a very consistent basis. So some carriers are able to provide that, others were not. I would say probably averaging among the carriers, I would say they're reporting about a 25% paid rate at the moment.
Thank you.
Again, I don't have statistics from every carrier. This is just the carriers that have supplied that to me.
Any other questions or comments? Want to make sure, because this is a document that I need to sign for the governor and the legislature, and I want to make sure the board members are happy with it. I would like, as a last comment, draw people's attention to page 13 of 15, where we're listing the contracts. Under the Xerox contract, even though we have authorization up to $60 million, that does not, on the remaining balance, that does not mean that that is what they will be paid. Just a point of clarification on that.
That
Yes.
doesn't mean that the other people who are identified here will be paid those amounts?
No, some of these contracts are time and materials, so you don't know
Okay.
whether or not they've utilized up to the amount of the authorization. So there's always an audit that's done with this to make sure that invoices submitted match up with, how much time they've used versus what the authorization level is. But that doesn't mean that remaining balance is something that will automatically be paid out to people we're contracting with. All right, thank you very much. I'll look forward to Mr. Gilbert sending me approved document. Oh, let's see, I guess we need to have approval on this. Since we've ended the Q&A on this, is there someone that would like to offer a motion for approval?
Madam Chair, this is Dr. Ford. I move to approve the report.
All right, is there a second?
Second the motion.
Ms. Lewis, thank you. Any further discussion on this agenda item? If not, all in favor of the motion?
Aye.
Aye.
Are there any opposed? All right, thank you very much. The motion is approved. All right, we're moving on then to agenda item number 6, which are the monthly budget projections. And I know Mr. Haycock is not here today. So Mr. Gilbert, who is going to facilitate that for us, please?
Ms. Eaton
Or I
will
guess,
be,
just a minute, this is Miss Eaton's.
that's correct.
I'm sorry, Carrie.
No problem. David stepped in for me last month.
Okay, thank you. Can we move ahead to that agenda item, please?
Yes, Carrie Eaton for the record. This report is very brief this month, not much new to report. Throughout this state fiscal year, the exchange has expended and projected approximately 74% of the available budget authority for this fiscal year. And this has changed from last month's report as the projections have been updated. And the latest version of the exchange's 2016-2017 requested budget, known as the Governor's Recommended Budget, remains confidential per statute until published on January 15th, 2015. So I'm not able to go into detail about that budget at the moment. And that actually concludes my report. I will be happy to answer any questions.
All right, do any of the board members have questions on the budget in its totality or any of the line items?
I do want to mention one more quick thing. On page 2, we do have, actually it's not really documented on here. It is. The very last line of the total budget authority is our general fund advance. At this point in time, we have collected enough fees from our QHP revenue and dental revenue that we no longer need this general fund advance, so we are anticipating returning this general fund advance in the next month.
Thank you.
Wonderful.
Yeah. Any questions from board members? All right, very comprehensive, Ms. Eaton. That way we don't have any questions. Thank you. Moving on then to agenda item number 7, the consumer assistance and marketing outreach. Tyler, are you doing that since?
Yes.
Okay, thank you very much.
So I believe Katie and Steph will be coming up to Carson, to the desk up in Carson. Oh, there they are. So really, consumer assistance, marketing, and outreach, and thank you, Madam Chair, by the way, they obviously go together. Our marketing and outreach efforts directly affect our consumers and the education that they need and will receive. I did want to touch on one thing outside of the really marketing and outreach report, and it has to do with consumer assistance. And it deals with a conference call that we set up. Bruce and I decided to host, as well as many other partners, and it was kind of a group effort, to host a standing call, a daily call. This started the Monday after open enrollment on the 17th. And we invited all of the consumer-facing agencies, not only in the state, but as well as our congressional offices. The goal of this call was not only for us to have the opportunity to relay any messaging, whether positive or negative, coming out of open enrollment, because of course we did not know what to expect, but to have it two ways, to hear the concerns that they're receiving. These are the boots on the ground, if you will. So we're talking about the constituent services departments, from congressional offices, and of course the governor's office, and affected state agencies. So that would be the Department of Health and Human Services, Consumer Health Assistance, so the governor's GovCHA, the Governor's Office for Consumer Health Assistance. And then we also invited our friends at the Legislative Counsel Bureau. They have a huge constituent service department. They're at the point of all the legislators' offices as well. So we invited everybody, and everyone was excited about the call. And so it began Monday, 4 o'clock, and this was a daily call. Of course, we know the news about open enrollment. Saturday it started, and up until this point, things have gone very well. We continue to have that call. And you'll see there's not much to report besides us starting the call. And that's because at the end of the day,
we got some feedback going on. Marie, are you still on the line?
Yeah, sorry, I got off mute for a second. Sorry about that.
Oh, okay, thank you.
So anyway, just wanted to let the board know that we had this call. We met every day for, I believe, the first 2 weeks, the first week and a half. There was really no concerns relayed to us at all. We were really the ones able to talk about some of the minor issues and some informational items. Again, this is a great way for us to pass that information along, so constituents across the state, no matter what office they call, and get the right information, but the consistent information. So we've since moved these calls to once a week. We have them every Monday, and we're going to continue to have these throughout the open enrollment period. Again, feedback from our partners and the participants on the call has been great. They're very appreciative of this effort, and I think continuing through open enrollment, deadlines, dates, as we get new things that we need to convey to the public. I mean, these are the consumer-facing agencies that are going to deliver that message in addition to the media and marketing. So I wanted to give you an update on that. I think it's been a great effort. We'll continue it, and that is really what I wanted to touch on before passing it on to the KPS3 for the outreach report. But I'll take any questions on that first.
Dr. Jameson?
And so was there any particular comments that were repeating themes?
You know, I know it sounds almost too good to be true, but for 2015, for the new process, I mean, many of these calls lasted 6 or 7 minutes, and you're talking about 15, 16 people on the call. So as we're all aware of conference calls, having a 6-7 minute conference call is pretty out of the ordinary. But again, there's going to be things that we need to say, whether they're receiving concerns from their constituents or not. There's going to be many messages that we need to give them, and we will continue to do so.
It's wonderful that you haven't received any concerns from their constituents.
It's been great.
I'd like to underline that.
Sure. No, absolutely. And I won't lie, some of the calls, they still receive calls on 2014 issues. Those still exist.
Right.
But again, that goes with our reconciliation efforts and things like that. But as far as 2015, so far, so good. We've got a long way to go. So far, so good. So,
Great. So are we turning it over to Stephanie and Katie then?
we are.
Welcome. Thank you. We're looking forward to your report.
Hey. Alrighty. For the record, Katie Coleman with KPS3 Marketing. I am going to start on the agenda. We're going to cover a lot of the metrics and statistics that I know a lot of this group is used to hearing from us. So updates in the form of the media campaign update, outreach campaign update, enrollment stores, a website update, and then a re-enrollment initiative update for you all. So moving on to page 3, the media campaign update is going to review the estimated Q4 metrics. This is what we are going to achieve in our placed media through the end of Q4. That would be the end of December. So in TV, 5,020,209 impressions at a 93.1% reach with a 17.1 times frequency. And just to give a little recap on reach and frequency, that percentage in reach is among our target audience, so a 93.1% reach among our target audience. And then how many times are those members of our audience going to see the message? Again, 17.1 times in the TV format alone. Radio, 8.6 million impressions projected for Q4, an 80.1% reach, and 8.5 times frequency. And out of home, we calculate this in impressions at a 46 million impression mark for estimated Q4. Print at 2.1 million, and that tallies up to a 61.9 million estimated delivered impressions for traditional media for Q4. And I'm going to move on to page 4. Page 4 gets into our digital campaign. As we can all recall, digital plays an important part in us getting the message out, especially among our young and visible population, our Spanish-speaking populations. And we have 3.5 million impressions to date, and we anticipate delivering 20 million total for Q4. The overall digital campaign click-through rate to date, 0.09%. Again, taking a look at industry standards, at a 0.05, 0.06, so we are pacing above that industry standard, which is fantastic. The re-enrollment digital ads are performing exceedingly well with a 0.13 click-through rate. If we can kind of go back and remember what we're doing there, of the emails that we're pushing to existing customers, advising them that they need to re-enroll, they are then served a digital ad outside of their email on the websites that they visit, and with a very specific re-enrollment message. So it makes sense that those click-through rates are so high because we're delivering a very targeted message to a very targeted population. The Spanish re-enrollment ads are performing even better with a 1.03% click-through rate. The digital ads have been effectively driving our consumers to the pre-screener tool with 1,200 visitors from the banner ads alone. The pre-roll portion of the video, and this is our advertisements running before the videos that people watch online, has served 2.55 million impressions and produced 912,000 minutes of viewed content. We employed a Pandora strategy again this enrollment cycle. We've delivered 604,000 impressions and 2,700 clicks with a 0.69 click-through rate. Looking back at that 0.05 to 0.06 industry standard, Pandora is a great strategy for us. And then we're also tracking all of the actions on our site. So we're evaluating where visitors are clicking, and this helps us optimize our campaign. We can fine-tune our strategy and continue to make sure that we're driving folks to the pre-screener and those in-person assistance tools on our website. So I'm going to move to page 5 because this is kind of the payoff here with regard to digital in particular. These are the website metrics as of 12/8. And actually, I'm going to give you as of today at about 10:45. We have achieved since launch 140,000 visits, 84,000 unique visitors, 432,000 page views. Going back to my comment about how we're tracking activities on the website, here are some top-line results with regard to those activities. Actually, 46,256 clicks to the pre-screener tool as of 10:45 this morning. 16,456 clicks to manage current plans. 13,812 clicks to healthcare.gov, and I do want to make a note that the pre-screener tool clicks and the healthcare.gov clicks are separate, so those are not included in either of those. And then 10,297 clicks to Access Nevada and Nevada Checkup. And again, we use these statistics and metrics to work on our strategy and fine-tune our tactics. And Steph is going to do outreach.
Good afternoon, Stephanie Cruz for the record. Our outreach and enrollment store teams have been very, very active. They've been a lot of great places where our uninsured population live, work, and play. We've had 91 outreach events and distribution points since August when we started our outreach program in earnest. That has included health fairs, festivals, senior fairs, veterans events. We had programming and tabling at UNR and UNLV football games. Distribution through libraries, supermarkets, drugstores, a lot of distribution locations where we really want to go after our target audience, including the young invincibles. We've had over 181,000 touch points at a low cost of 24 cents cost per touch. And this is comprised of over 150,000 consumers at the event seeing our messages and seeing our brand. 6,595 one-on-one conversations, which is our gold standard. We like to have those one-on-one conversations. And that includes 1,500 cars at Glittering Lights, which is the Holiday Lights event in Southern Nevada. We have basically a captive audience. The cars are standing in line for quite some time, and we go from door to door of car to car and talk to them about the Nevada Health Link. And that's been a very fun event, and we've talked to a lot of folks. And then we've distributed over 24,000 pieces of consumer materials. And again, our outreach team, their goal is to drive people to some place where they can get some in-person assistance, to brokers, navigators, or to one of the enrollment stores. So that, again, is our payoff. We want to make sure that they're getting in-person help if they need it. Upcoming activities include basketball games at both universities, tabling at 6 Las Vegas athletic clubs, and we have TV spots running in those clubs 24 hours a day, again, targeting our young invincibles. And then ongoing outreach through businesses. We've been very successful in lining up businesses from gaming to Lowe's to sports clubs to small businesses, working through the Latin Chamber in Southern Nevada, really trying to get to the uninsured and underinsured and part-timers through their businesses. The enrollment stores have been very active. They had a wonderful grand opening. It was great to see, and they've turned out very wonderfully. And our partners with our brokers and our navigators are excellent partners. We could not do that without them. And our team there is really trying to provide information and appropriate referral and appropriate assistance in terms of enrollment. We've seen about 1,700 customers. It is a little bit of a difficult time in the enrollment stores during the holidays. People have other things on their mind when they're at the mall. And so we're going to really be ramping up after the first of the year and promoting the stores even more than we have now. We have a separate campaign running to promote the enrollment stores, but we're really looking after the first of the year and after holiday spending on other items to really try to get those folks into the stores and get some help and in-person assistance, whether it is for Medicaid assistance or information in general, and especially to help them enroll. And at the next page, you'll see our part of our enrollment, our outreach team at the Lights Festival with our little custom-made Nevada Health Link logo done in lights. Our lineup of cars that you see them kind of going door to door. And then the next page are some of the photos from the stores in both Northern Nevada and Southern Nevada.
And I am on the last page, page 9, for the Re-Enroll Initiative update. We have sent physical letters October 2nd, November 4th, and December 1st. In addition, and I actually brought a little sample, we sent up a follow-up postcard, big, bold, have you signed up yet, the week of the 1st of December to provide a clear and urgent message about the need to re-enroll and also how to do that without the need to open an envelope. Emails have been sent, incredibly high open rates, again, going back to that very targeted audience with a very targeted message. We're actually using those metrics from the emails to see who has not opened our emails, and we are following up with a voice mail service to call them. We actually did the first call on Tuesday evening with some really great success of answers and 0 opt-outs, and so we'll continue to follow up with that, especially looking at who hasn't opened our messages quite yet and hitting them up in other places. Again, the retargeting efforts through the digital ads are producing incredible results, high click-through rate, and direct visits to that pre-screener tool to get them into the process. Additional emails, letters, calls, and any other strategy that we determine would be successful in reaching this audience will continue to happen, especially January, February, honing in on that February 15th date. And that is the end. Happy to answer any questions.
Or Katie?
Madam Chair, this is Leslie Johnstone. Stephanie, on one of the early slides, what does out of home mean? What does that mean?
Out of home, Stephanie Cruz, out of home is kind of a broad category of advertising for any large format ads that are out of your home, such as transit, buses, bus shelters, billboards. So they're larger format that occur out of the target's home.
Dr. Jameson?
You somewhat answered my question. It was about how the holiday season was affecting enrollment. And you mentioned a little bit on the stores. And I was just wondering if how busy the stores, how the business has dropped, and if this is pretty comparable to what happened last year. Not in the stores, but in general.
We had a lot of quite a bit of interest after open enrollment this year. There's a lot of traffic at the Boulevard Mall in Las Vegas, which is where the store is located. We see a lot of traffic, but they're shopping for the holidays as opposed to coming in and buying insurance. They kind of have other things on their mind, which is why we're really planning on ramping up the push to get the enrollment store message out right after the 1st. So we think that the holidays in general, because people are out spending money on Christmas gifts and holiday gifts, is probably influencing people wanting to sit down and start to pay for health insurance. So Do we have evidence? No. It's just our sense just from the foot traffic that we see at the Boulevard Mall especially.
Yes, I think the spending and just time, people have so little time in this season to do anything extra. So I just want to compliment you on the variety of ways that you have done outreach. I think the only thing I saw missing is our mascot.
Stephanie Cruz, we have a great costume in mind for that, by the way.
Well, I can't wait to see it.
Tyler, did you want to add?
I only wanted to add, about holiday shoppers in the boulevard. You can't discount the awareness. You might walk past the store on your way to another store, but you see it, it's there. So you can't discount the fact that now they're aware that it exists. So in the new year, they know exactly where to come. I think we can imagine that exists.
All right, and I have a question, and I don't remember who was taking care of page 5. I had a question on the website update. Katie, was that you or Stephanie? Is that you?
That was me.
Katie. Okay. You had updated numbers for visitor activity, and it's the second bullet point on clicks to manage the 2014 plans. What is that number at right now?
It's at 16,456.
Would that lead me to the conclusion that this area is dealing with people that need to re-enroll?
Actually, and I have some additional, oh, sorry, the feedback's really bad here. Kind of stand away and, oh, that works. So the Manage for 2014 plan is actually an action on the website that's intended to ensure current customers can, so access their account at the last year's site, and we're actually keeping a really close eye on this. Oh, sorry.
We can't hear you.
Is that better?
Much better. Thank you.
Okay, perfect. I'll start over. So
I think she touched the mic. It was the old mic system. Touched the mic, and there it goes. They need to get on our mic system. This has been fantastic.
how about that?
Better. Thank you.
Okay, I won't move. So so manage your plan. We're keeping a close eye on this. I actually have the breakdown of what's happening on that particular page, because we do want to make sure that our messaging on the website is clear, and we want to know what folks are doing there with regard to, are they going there to truly access their current 2014 plan, going to the Xerox site essentially? Are they going into Access Nevada to manage current Medicaid plan? And as we look at this, and again, we're looking at this consistently, the majority, actually 62% of those users are going into the Manage Your Plan to go to the current Xerox site. So that tells us that the intention and the message that's there, directing folks, current customers, to go there to manage their plan is indeed working. About 24% of those people in that area are going out to Access Nevada, assuming to manage their activities there. So like I said, and I hope this answers your question, and if not, I can explain further, but that section is doing what we need it to as far as messaging and actions go.
Yeah, and for the record, this is Bruce Gilbert. Madam Chairman, I noticed this as well fairly early on, and actually Tyler and I discussed it as we watched the numbers come in, because my concern was much like yours, that people who wanted or needed to re-enroll were being ported to an inappropriate landing page and weren't able to resolve things. We were able to work with KPS3 and to determine that between those who actually want to go to the Xerox site and go there, and those who want to try and manage a 2014 Medicaid plan, is about 80+% of the people who go ahead and hit that button. So while there may be some small percentage of that number that's looking to go ahead and enroll or re-enroll in a qualified health plan, that would not be the majority of those folks.
Thank you for the clarification. Any other questions or comments? All right, thank you both. Always appreciate the update, and it's exciting to see a lot of the things that you're doing for us.
Thank you. Thank you.
All right, let's move on to agenda item number 8, which I believe Mr. Roos is going to conduct for us, and that's the report on the progress of the reconciliation.
For the record, Shauna DeRose, there is a lot of information in this particular board report. I listened to your comments at the last board meeting, and I tried to incorporate a lot of those to give you the information that you needed here. I'm certainly not going to read 11 pages to you for the interest of time, but always feel free that if you have a question later, you can reach out and let me know. As you know, PCG's been working with the carriers. I think that we absolutely planned to have more of the caseload done by now, that we thought we would be done. I think my initial report to you all way back when was that in October or early November that we would be done. So I can say we're not done. We're very clearly not done, but we've gone through a lot of the cases. There are several reasons that we're not done, and they are mentioned here. Everything from, we definitely got some pushback from the carriers in the beginning. Some of the carriers just wouldn't play ball. I think that most of them have come around now, but it took time. It took, when you take a month or 6 weeks out of a very short time frame anyway, it made it difficult to get those things done. What I've tried to do in this particular board report is give you a little bit more of the metrics overall so that you can see that even though it's taken us longer, that the work is getting done. And I think that even Executive Director Gilbert can say that he has spoken with the carriers, and there's been I think a turnaround in the attitude, a turnaround in how everybody's feeling definitely that this work is getting done. And the numbers prove it. Let's see, on page 6, I think this is going to be kind of an eye-opener for everyone. At the top of page 6, this kind of shows all the way back to January and February the number of cases that were actually opened within the BOSS system. And you can see that there have been over 31,000 cases last week at the time of writing this that were opened. And that we had closed over 30,000 cases as well at that time. When I finished writing this report last week, there were 742 cases open. This morning, there were 693. I can tell you that I was on the phone with an Anthem call today, and we probably went through another 100 cases with Anthem, and it was a very productive meeting. So I wanted to show that, I know we talked back in August that there was about 10,000 cases at the time. Every single month, not only are we having to get through the old cases, we're getting new cases too. So it just kind of compounds itself. So I thought that this was very good information for the board to have. The continuation of getting that final 693 cases, we are in the process of getting those closed. We're working with the carriers. I can say right now, St. Mary's doesn't have any. The co-op is down to about 50, and there was about 100 that we have to finalize with Anthem, and then the remaining balance is with HPN. So we're down to where we can really say, these are these cases that go in this bucket, and we're closing those. So to me, that's very exciting, and I think that PCG has been very, very helpful in that. I think all the carriers will say that the communication, which was so the first and worst thing that they talked about when they first came on board, that the communication is much, much better now. I will say that PCG, and it is in the report, PCG's that authority for that work order, we are out of authority, actually as of close of business today. We are out of authority for PCG, so we are working on getting additional authority so that they can continue that work. And I hope I can still get that done tonight because they're supposed to be on a phone call with me again tomorrow morning at 8 o'clock. So I'd like to make sure that we get that taken care of. Continuing on through a new section that we've added in this board report is the member reconciliations. So beyond the caseload, we actually have to go through the member accounts and reconcile the information that is within the BOSS system and the carriers. And I've put in here a little bit about what each of the carriers, where they are in that process. There are definitely some carriers who are further than others. Some are not choosing to participate in that, which may mean that there will be issues with the member accounting that is sent on to CMS. But right now, that's just where it is. This is current data. I will continue to work on them and persuade them and get them involved in the process. But this is where we are today.
Shauna, just for a minute, but all the QHPs are participating, correct?
As of 12/4, just last week, I got HPN on board. Up until that point, they were not participating.
So
I haven't
you've got all 4 of them.
I've got all 4. At
Okay.
least for HPN, they've agreed to do a partial.
Okay.
So that's new information in this board report for you to review. Of course, then the accounting reconciliation. That's always been the big hot topic. And I think that this is where over the last couple of months, you can see some huge changes in numbers. And actually, like Katie, I have updated numbers of today. So on page 10 of 11, where we talk about the different buckets of money, and again, we've gone through those before. I will say that on the short pay binder payments, in the last board report I gave, there was 1,137 of those short pay binder payments. So they remember these are people have short paid their initial payment, so it never got effectuated. The board report shows 6. I can tell you that we're down to 0 there as of today. So there is no longer any short pay binder payments. So these payments were either applied and the account was effectuated, or the money was refunded to the client based on their response. So that's a good number there. Short pay recurring premium, and again, we know we're going to have these every single month until the end here. And the good thing is we're in December and we're doing the final reconciliation with the carriers. Any monies that are left in this account will get dispersed to the carriers. All of this money will go to the carriers when we do our final reconciliation process in January. The items in the suspense module, there's 24 items right now, so it only went down by 2. About $4,700. You know, we get items in there every day and items leave every day, so it's just kind of a turnover. I think that the other big change is those unprocessed items. These are the ones where we get the checks and we don't have an account to put them towards because either the person doesn't have, I think the example I used was, you know, I paid for someone else's account, but I don't have a HIX number on there. Well, Shauna's not in the system, so there's no way for us to know where to put that money. I think it's very exciting. As of the board report, I had written 251. We're down to 87 of these. And it goes down to about $15,000 there. So I think we've made great strides on this since our last board report. And again, any money in this particular bucket at the end, because we don't know who these go to, if we can't close these out, it will get transferred over to the treasurer's office and go into the unclaimed fund with the treasurer's office. And then in the back, you can see last week when we wrote the board report, I wanted to add this in here because of the 693 cases that are currently open, the majority of those are finance. They are no longer effective date issues necessarily, or, you know, change me from a male to a female, or change my address, or those kinds of things. These are cases that require research. These are cases where somebody had multiple HIX IDs and we're trying to move money from one HIX ID to another, and it's definitely a research-intensive process. So I wanted to point out that we're tracking this on that basis to that level to decide, you know, are these finance cases or are these kind of a higher level caseload that is a little bit easier to accomplish closing those cases. So with that, I'm available for questions.
Have any questions for Mr. Roos?
This is Leslie Johnstone. I have to tell you the terminology doesn't really resonate with me to tell the difference between these different categories.
I'm sorry, which ones are we talking about? The accounting buckets?
No, the titles of the major categories. So member reconciliation, accounting reconciliation, financial issues.
Mm-hmm.
How are those not duplications?
Okay, so an accounting reconciliation is the amount of money that we send over to the carriers in the ACH, the actual cash that we send them, what they've received, There's the clawback, like if we have to give refunds or if somebody gets terminated and we claw back that money. So the accounting reconciliation of with the carrier would be one bucket.
Doesn't that show up when there's a discrepancy on the member reconciliation?
It actually may not. It's very different. The member reconciliation is literally looking at your name, your gender, your address, the plan number.
So just demographics?
It's demographics, exactly. There you go. So it's very static
Okay.
information.
Then why wouldn't that example show up in the financial, or in the, financial issues, the last category?
Let me see, maybe I said that wrong. The financial cases, that's what I'm talking about. I'm sorry, bless you. The money going back and forth. The 4 buckets of accounting are those specific 4 buckets that we've talked about in the last few board meetings.
Those sound like problems of money going back and forth to me.
So short pay binder payments, that's not a problem, money going back and forth. Short pay recurring invoices.
So in what you're calling accounting reconciliations, both parties agree on what happened?
Yes.
There's just a problem with what happened?
Yes.
Okay. And in the financial buckets, the parties disagree about what happened?
Or it takes research to go figure out what happened and we haven't got there yet.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Okay, I'm sorry, I'll try to be clearer in the future.
Dr. Jameson?
That was very helpful, thank you. So I'm just wondering, when you say it's closed then, just following up on the very last part of what we just said, the client then feels it's closed as well. Everybody is satisfied?
I don't think we can satisfy everyone.
No, I don't think that you can satisfy you, but when you say it's closed, for the most part, they recognize their short pay, in that case, in that particular incident. And there's some sort of a letter of acknowledgement on our part and their part that we have reconciled this and we're done.
It's generally a phone call or an email, but yes.
A phone call, but a documentation, as we say, a trail that we can say we resolved this.
We have it recorded and we have it documented within the CRM. Yes. Absolutely.
All right. Do we have any other questions?
Yes, the select board, and I apologize, I was not at last month's meeting, so this might be a very simple question. This little timeline you put on page 6 was very helpful. So for every, you closed 1,100 cases, 800 were open. So you're kind of, running against the tide a little bit. So am I to understand, since December will be the only month that new cases could be opened, that eventually will new cases be available to be opened as of January 1st, or eventually you'll get traction and there will be no more cases opened? And I apologize if that's a simple question.
Well, no, eventually I would hope that no more new cases come open. So recall that a QLE can still be processed through March 2nd. That would be 60 days after the end of the year. Qualifying life event, excuse me. And so we will still be dealing with consumers and their QHP issues. And so they could perhaps come back and say, I paid for my child to be added to my account and something happened there, So I'm not going to say that as of January 1, there won't be any new cases, because as long as we are, it'll drop hugely.
As long as we're in business, we'll have a few cases.
Yeah.
Madam Chair, one final question. The 693 cases left, is that of all kinds of issues?
It is.
Okay.
Congratulations on getting from almost 32,000 open cases down to 693.
Thank you.
Madam Chairman,
Do we
if I
have
might.
any other questions?
Madam Chairman,
Yes.
if I might, since we did bring up the issue of PCG and their authority, I did want to touch on that. PCG is in fact coming to the end of its authority at present. I was advised, I think yesterday, that they're seeking an additional $350,000 in order to be able to move forward through the month of March. I have, as indicated, met with Anthem. I met with them last week. I've also spoken with others who have indicated that they believe that PCG's involvement in the reconciliation effort is is helpful and important. And accordingly, I want to make sure that everybody understands there's not truly an authority issue, because I've already indicated that I'm more than happy to approve that $350,000 in terms of additional authority. However, a question does come to mind as to who is ultimately responsible for the expenditure of those funds. And that's something that I had intended to discuss with the board next month. My sense is that, as there have been previously discussions, there may be a request from the board that those monies be offset against other funds that are payable to whoever might be the responsible party. And I don't want to get both of those things intertwined today, but I do want to reassure the board that as far as the additional monies requested by PCG for them to be able to continue in the reconciliation effort, that is not an issue.
Mr. Gilbert, I think it would be safe for you to move in the same direction that the board's given you guidance on in the past on this, unless you hear otherwise. And I think the board will wait for your report and recommendation next month.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Okay. Any other questions on the reconciliation? All right, let's move along to item number 9, discussion and possible actions for the next meeting date, which is January, what is that? Let me get my calendar open.
January 9th. January 9th.
January 19th.
8th is a Thursday.
9th.
First ought to be a Thursday, so that would make it.
Yeah, actually, I've got it as,
I'm looking at 2014, sorry.
January 8th,
Yes.
2015, in the new year. All right, does anyone have any requests for that agenda other than updated numbers? I'd love to have the most current updated numbers. And Mr. Gilbert, when you're talking with the carriers, would you please express our appreciation of them giving you updated numbers and enrollment numbers? It's agonizing waiting for those numbers to come back from the federal government after open enrollment closes.
I will be happy to do that, Madam Chair. And I would offer to the board, really, Laura has done an outstanding job of working with the carriers to get that information. Her relationship with the carriers is one of the reasons that we've been able to get the information as promptly as we have. So I would thank her for her efforts and tell you she's done a great job for you.
Well, thank you. And Laura, will you express our appreciation to the carriers as well? Because it really is very meaningful for us to see the progress in the new state-supported exchange. So thank you. Any recommendations? I know we have our standard format. Numbers, numbers, numbers. I think that's what you're hearing.
Madam Chair, I know it's a lot of information here, but I think we ought to have a monthly update on the account reconciliation until we're all done.
I agree. I think this has been a standard on the monthly agenda. Just let's continue to do that. All right, let's open it up for public comment. Any comment in Carson City?
There is none here, Madam Chair.
How about here in Henderson? All right. With that, then, before we adjourn today, I want to wish everyone a very happy holiday season. I think we're closing out 2014 with a much better feel for the exchange than we had when we started out the year. I want to thank staff for all the work that they've done in the transition, and our partners, Commissioner Kipper. I know that we don't have Romaine Gilliman here today, and Julia Tesla. Thank you all. And for everyone that's not here that participated, I want to thank you all for what you've done to get us to this point here today. And again, happy holidays, Happy New Year, and we'll see you 2015.
Happy holidays and thanks
Same to
Barbara
you.
for everything you've done.
Thank you. I'm gonna get my flight.